that, and then again comes back, takes the next instruction in the source program, translates it, executes it, and if the execution of this instruction required transfer of control, the interpreter also understands that it now doesn't need to pick up the next instruction in sequence, but it has to pick up an instruction from somewhere else in the source program. So it goes to that place, picks up the instruction from there, translates it into hardware instructions, it keeps on executing it until the source program says that that's the end, that is, the source program ends out there. At that point, the interpreter will translate that particular thing and run a particular statement by the hardware saying the work for this particular program is over. It gives the control back to the operating system, and operating system is then waiting for next thing that can come from the user. So essentially, the interpreter is present during the execution of the program, and it is the locus of control. So it is the thing that actually takes instructions from the source program and keeps on translating it and executing it and going back again. Is this view clear? So is this interpretation view clear to everybody? If you have questions, please unmute and ask. Okay, Vishakha has asked a question. What if there are errors? Well, errors would mean you have a, let's say if it is a syntax error, okay, some semicolon missed or some keyword misspelled or things like that, the interpreter will fetch that particular statement from the source program and it will attempt to translate it. It will not be able to translate it because of the syntax error being present. It will, at that point, it will point it back to the source program saying here is an error. Okay, so that is about syntax error. But if the error is logical, that is, let's say it's something like divide by zero. The instruction says z is x by y, and mistakenly the value of y was set to zero. So the interpreter will fetch that program, it will translate it. The translation will go through correctly because there was no syntax error present. But once it tries to execute that particular statement, this is like an erroneous execution, which is like divide by zero. The hardware itself will give out what is called as a signal saying this is an instruction where we are attempting to divide by zero, which is problematic. So the divider circuit present in the hardware will give out a signal which the interpreter will catch, and it can point it out to the program writer in the source program saying that there is a divide by zero error in this particular statement. Okay, so that's how these errors are handled. Is this clear? Okay, great. Any other question? Okay, so Fauzan is asking, does the interpreter go from top to bottom, or does it go as and when a function is called, like in C, the compilation starts from main? Well, let's assume for the time being that we are using a programming language like C or C itself, and let's for the time being assume that C is being implemented using an interpreter rather than a compiler. Right? So the programming language design, the manual itself says that the execution of the program should start from the first instruction inside main. Right? So the interpreter what it should do is also obey whatever is there in the programming language manual as suggested by the design. So it looks at the first instruction inside main Okay, and then translates it into an equivalent hardware instruction, executes that instruction. If there is no transfer of control, that is, if there is no if then else, or the statement does not have a conditional or a loop or something like that, it knows that it now needs to pick up the second instruction inside the main function, picks it up, translates it, executes it, and goes back. Okay, so from where it should start depends on how the language manual itself says where should the execution start. In some languages, like Python or some other languages, the execution typically starts from the first instruction written in the file, or we might actually say there is a main function in some languages. So you could start your execution from the first instruction inside. Okay, so the answer here is the execution from where it should start. That determines how the interpreter will pick up instructions from the source program and keep on making translation. Right. So that answers the first part of the question which Fauzan has raised. The second part about like in C, the compilation starts from main is actually incorrect. We will take a look at how compilation happens, or these things will become more clear in the language processors course. The compilation actually is done on a file wise manner. The entire file actually is being compiled. What is correct, what is to state correctly is that in C, the execution starts from the first statement in main. The compilation actually, the entire file is compiled into an executable code. And then there is a special instruction which says which is the first instruction that needs to be executed. The compiler knows that because it has compiled it. It also knows the address of the first instruction in the main from which the program should begin its execution. It gives an instruction to load the program counter with that particular instruction address, and the execution can begin from that. Right? So compilation doesn't start from main. It is done on a per file manner, but execution definitely starts from the first instruction inside main. The interpreter will also pick up that instruction and keep on translating. I hope this is clear. Yeah, great. Any other question?
Sir, interpreted languages would be slower, right? Because
Ah.
the translation happens on the go.
Why are you saying that? You're,
Because
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sir, because we are translating the code from high level language to machine language in real time, it will take some extra time, right? So the
Yeah,
interpreted
yeah.
languages should be slower.
Yeah, correct. Excellent. Right. So at runtime now, since the interpreter is present and it is doing this translation activity during runtime, so therefore that is an overhead that happens in addition to the actual execution which the program itself requires. So that overhead is there, and therefore the interpreted programs will run slowly, as Pulkit has very rightly pointed out. And what is more is that since the interpreter is present during runtime, it is also eating up some amount of memory itself. So the entire memory is not available for the user program because some space will be required by the interpreter itself uh, uh, for its own, storage or whatever it requires. Correct. So that is that particular argument is correct. That is indeed the case. And let me just take it a little further. Let's assume that the source program has a loop present in it, and in the loop there are multiple instructions. So how will pure interpreter work? So first is it will get the loop instruction and knows that next, let's say 5 instructions inside the loop have to be executed, let's say 100 times. Let's talk of a simple loop. So it picks the first instruction inside the loop, translates it, executes it, picks the second instruction, translates and executes, picks up all the 5 instructions, translate and execute all of them, go back to the head of the loop, again go in, take the first instruction of the loop, translate it once more and execute it, take the second instruction, translate it once more, execute it, and keep on doing this cycle for all the 100 iterations for which this loop is supposed to execute. Right? So these 5 statements, in a way, they would be translated. Each one of them would be translated 100 times if the loop itself runs for 100 times. That is also one of the reasons why interpreted programs will run slower than compiled programs. Is this clear? So I know that there are 2 questions again by Ojas and Pulkit, so I will answer them one by one. But is this fact that an interpreted program will run slower is clear or not? I hope the issues there are understood properly. Okay, so now let me take the question which Ojas has raised. That is, does interpreter catch errors during runtime, whereas compilers catch the errors before the target program is executed? Well, we will be discussing this error handling in detail immediately in the next slide. But one thing is, can a compiler catch all types of errors, execution errors mainly? First of all, can a compiler catch all the syntax errors? Forget about execution errors. Can a compiler catch all types of syntax errors? All the syntax errors that might be present in the program. Well, if you have written large programs, you will come to know that if there are multiple syntax errors present in the program, mostly the compilers will not be able to catch all the syntax errors. Okay? What typically is done is if they find an error, they somehow try to correct that error or somehow try to point out what that error is and then keep on going ahead compiling the next statements in the program using certain assumptions about the earlier errors. And then it might just happen that they miss, because of the adjustments that they might have made, they might miss out on reporting other errors which might be there. Right? So a compiler may not catch all the syntax errors. So I'm just talking of the syntax error here. Now let's talk about the case of a logical error or an execution type error. For example, the statement like Z is X by Y, some statement which we discussed just now. Suppose the value of Y is actually being changed inside the program. So I have said somewhere Y is Y minus 1. And initially the value of Y is let's say 10. And we are inside a loop saying Y is Y minus 1 and saying after that statement I have Z is X by Y. Will the compiler will it be able to catch that eventually the value of Y might become 0 and therefore it should not, we might have a runtime error of division by 0 during the execution of the program. So that is a question which Ojas has raised. I request Ojas that you have raised this question to me privately, but since this is a technical discussion, please pose the question again to everybody so that everybody knows what is it that I'm trying to answer out here. Okay, so I request this to everybody that whenever you pose a question, pose it to everyone rather than just sending it to me private. Right. So this is the question which OJS has raised. So the discussion says that the compiler can never know what is the value that might be there in the of this variable y, and therefore it cannot catch these kinds of runtime errors. Okay, so therefore the statement that a compiler catches errors before the target program is executed is incorrect. It cannot catch all errors. First of all, it cannot even catch all syntax errors, and probably it can never catch runtime errors. While since the interpreter is present during runtime, if a syntax error happens in a statement or a runtime error happens while executing the statement, it can very well pinpoint which is that instruction that is causing either the syntax or the runtime error. Correct. So then my next question is, which kind of implementation strategy is better for error handling? Well, now Pulkit in a way has answered his own question that it has raised. He has raised, that is, are there any advantages of interpretation at runtime for the end user? Well, this is one advantage. Okay, definitely the error handling is much better during using interpreter because it is present during interpreter. It can very well pinpoint. You will come to various strange types of errors if once you start writing reasonably large programs using pointers, where you have this issue about dangling references or a pointer accessing a null pointer accessing a location, or memory being leaked out, garbage being created, etc., etc. They are extremely hard to find out if you are working with a compiler based implementation. What it says, compiler will typically say is it segmentation fault, core dump kind of a output it gives, and the programmer is at a loss about what really happened. Where was the bug? Which statement caused this illegal pointer access or a null pointer access or things like that? It's extremely tough for the compiler to find out. While for the interpreter, if at a particular point there was an illegal pointer access and because of that the hardware gave out a signal, the interpreter can straight away point out that this is the instruction, the source code instruction, the source program instruction that led to an illegal pointer access. And this definitely would mean that the user actually can pinpoint, knows this is the instruction that is faulty, and therefore it would be better for the user to debug that particular instruction. Okay, so error handling is better using the interpretation style. Second thing, so one thing is clear, if we want fast execution, then the compilation strategy is better because there are no overheads at runtime. But if you want better error handling, then interpretation style is better. Is the interpretation style better for some other purpose? Well, as we see during the course, if we want a lot of flexibility in the way we write our programs, then it makes sense to use the interpretation style. What do we mean by flexibility here? Let me give a simple example. Typically, whenever we write a program, let's consider a program, for simplicity, just has one function, just the main function. And let's say inside the main function, we want to use a variable. Let's say the name of the variable is X. In a typical programming language, which uses the compilation strategy, we upfront, we need to state what is the type of the variable. So therefore, in languages like C or Pascal or other languages, we need to say int X or float X or whatever. So we have to say that the type of this variable x is integer or floating point or whatever. And then we perform operations which use this variable x. Suppose I want to give flexibility to the programmer, saying I don't want the programmer to state the type of the variable upfront. So, which means that in some part of the program, x happens to be an integer. In some other part of the program, x happens to be a floating point number. In some other part of the program, else x might be an array. In other part, it might be a struct, and so on and so forth. Can such a flexibility be provided by a language which is compiled? Yeah, it cannot be, right? So where we want flexibility, where there are various applications where we will require flexibility, and you will eventually discover as you program more and in the course as we will be discussing. Such a facility, if it must be provided, then interpretation style is helpful out here again. Because for the interpreter, when it sees the variable x and sees the operation with which x is being used for, it can understand that x is to be interpreted, or the type of the x is to be considered as integer or floating point, or x could be an array, or x could be a struct, and so on and so forth. That inference of a type of a particular variable can be done by an interpreter because it is present during runtime. While the compiler, since it compiles the program once and then goes away, it has to, it is kind of restricted in using only one type of a variable at any point. We cannot use the same name or other, with different types as it is possible in the interpreted style. Not that it is not possible in a compiler, but however, it is extremely tough for a compiler to support this kind of flexibility, while for the interpreter it is kind of natural. Is this clear? Right. So interpretation gives more flexibility. Okay, and that I'm just putting it in that way. Okay, there are other issues also out here where interpreters might be helpful. For example, let's say we are writing a program using an array, and let's say the array consists of 100 elements. Okay, and I say x is a of I, where a is the name of the array and I is the index. Okay, and we are running this inside a loop. And let's assume that the loop is running from I equal to 0 to I equal to 200. With some error which the user has committed. So the user is actually scanning elements, 200 elements of the array, and the array itself has 100 elements. Is that a problem? Will that lead to an issue? Well, let's not talk about the implementation now. Yeah. So there would be a problem. Somebody said it gets segmentation fault, core dump. Where will it store, and so on. But what will happen in this situation? Why you get a segmentation fault, or you may not get a segmentation fault, or what kinds of problems happen if you are accessing array elements out of bounds? We will discuss this in detail later on. And let me tell you, this is one of the serious bugs, with which viruses are written for that. Even there are security holes which can happen, and our system might be hijacked if we allow this out of bounds kind of access. Now tell me, how will a compiler detect that the user program is accessing array elements out of bound? Can it detect? Yeah, Omkar, where we are accessing address which does not exist. Yeah, we will discuss that in detail. Yeah, but can a compiler detect? Yeah, there is no bound checking. C, for example, does not do any bound checking. It simply happily allows the user program to go ahead, and then the user is left at the mercy of what happens if there is out of bound access. Okay, so compiler, it's not one. Can an interpreter check that an access is out of bound? Yes, an interpreter, if it stores that this is the bound of the array, it can check that out for every array index access and can understand that this particular access is out of bound and can prompt to the user saying this is an out of bound access, I am not allowed. Similar thing, which interesting observation which Nitin Kumar has made about cannot the compiler also do the same thing? Can it not store the index itself? And when a user actually is accessing an array element, it checks the index value against the bound which it has stored and can detect it at that point. Well, let me take this a little further. How and where should the compiler store this and how can it detect? Because it is not present at runtime. It is not there at runtime. It's not running. So how can it detect? Yeah, Nitin Kumar, if you have ideas, let's take this little further. You have raised a very important point here. Actually. If you wish, you can unmute and ask. Yeah, it can find out the index by looking at array definition. Yeah, fine. But then at runtime, it is not there. So what do you mean? It was present only during the translation phase. Then some max and I plus plus, and inside that I say x is a of I. I don't know. I will go from what is this value of max? Suppose I do not know. Max may be present at some other file. Or forget about a for statement, a while statement. Inside a while statement, I say while I is something less than while AI is not equal to 100 or AI is not equal to -1. I keep on doing something and I increment that. Okay, which is tough for it to find out because the compiler is not present. What the compiler can do and what many good compilers do is that they just not only such, they also introduce additional code. Okay, by checking that the array index being accessed at every point does not exceed the bound and they have to store the bound in memory. That is an additional overhead. Variables, it needs to have these auxiliary variables where these bounds and other things need to be stored and need to be available at runtime, and then introduce code, additional code, which is in addition to the actual executable statements which the user might have to check for every access and check it with the bounds stored in the auxiliary. Okay, so there is a nice discussion. So Pulkit, can you unmute and just answer what you have in mind? Can you just discuss what you have in mind?
Sir,
And if we modify the
Yeah.
value of I inside the loop, I mean, sometimes we have to do that, then it is
Yeah.
possible that it can go out of bounds. So compiler will not be
No,
able to catch that.
well, they are intelligent. They just that present at run detect. So does that connect? Before I allow that execution to go through, so that statement also runs, and in that statement we check whether the value of I has exceeded the bound. In this kind of a situation, so what are the implications? First, we need to use additional memory to store those bounds. Second, for every array access, there would be an additional statement that is actually run at runtime to check whether the access is within the bounds or not. If it is outside the bound, then the some kind of a signal is generated and the user program is terminated. If it is within the bound, it is allowed. Precisely to disallow these kinds of these things, that is these inefficiencies of slower execution or using more memory. Many languages like C and others, which are mainly designed for efficiency, they just don't do anything at all. They allow the user program to go through. And therefore these languages are not the ones are not the safe ones to use in applications which require safety. For example, applications which are there used at different machines over the network. Java was one such programming language which was designed as a programming language for network, and it was mainly designed for safety kind of an issue. So there in Java, every array element access or is actually checked before it allows that array access to go through. The question is, couldn't the C compilers do whatever we stated? Well, they could have done. Definitely, they could have done this. But they made a choice of not doing this for efficiency reasons, assuming that the programmers who are programming using those languages are careful enough and sensible enough not to have these kinds of instructions present, these kinds of statements present. Okay, so therefore we have discussed in detail, these two strategies of compilation and interpretation. We see that many times interpretation is able to catch errors very nicely, and it should be able to pinpoint which source level language program led to the error. And an interpreter is also helpful whenever we write. We want applications to be written in a flexible manner. Interpretations do play a very significant role there, and that's why many programming languages follow this interpretation style. However, they are slow in execution. If we want fast execution, then we have to go to the compiled strategy where there is only executable code that runs. And as we will discuss ahead in this in the next set of slides in this particular lecture, we will see that many implementations follow a mixed style. They are not purely compiled or purely interpreted. In fact, every programming language will have some, even though it is majorly compiled, it might have some statements which are actually interpreted, and some programming languages which are majorly interpreted, but some part of it is actually compiled, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the difference, the key difference between compilation and interpretation. So as we have discussed, interpretation allows us to have greater flexibility. It also is it's good at error indicating errors and for error handling, so it gives better diagnostics. And then you have the compilation strategy, which gives better performance, fast performance, and usage of less memory. So actually, if you see, in some languages provide both the two implementation mechanisms. That is, you could also have an interpreter for your programs, or you could have a compiler for your programs. And what happens typically is when we develop a program, initially there would be a lot of bugs, but eventually, if it is if we have debugged it enough, we are confident that probably there are no more bugs in our program. So in order to discover the bugs, a programmer could initially interpret his program using the interpreter, because it is better at diagnostics, and therefore he can get hold of the bugs, run it multiple times. Eventually, when the programmer is confident that there are no more bugs, or the bugs are extremely rare or something of that sort, but now the programmer wants his piece of code to run very fast, he takes the program which is now bug free, gives it to the compiler, builds an executable, and deploys it. So therefore, a faster version will now be visible to the users of that particular. Right. So this is how these two system programs play a role, and therefore many languages for or